Hey everybody, welcome into Classic City Talks with Classic City Locks. We're very excited today. We've got our first guest of the season, Brendan Kerner over here. He's going to compete against us for 10 games this week of the top 25 games. We're really looking forward to it. I know I'm excited, he's excited, and we'll keep on doing this week by week. We're going to keep a tally to see which of the three of us is winning, and then for next week, we'll keep our next guest total, see if the next guest can beat him or beat either of us. So I'm excited about it. You have anything you want to say before we start?
Yeah, I mean, just once again, thank you for bringing me on. I really appreciate the opportunity. I've been betting for about a year now. I would not consider myself a professional capper or wouldn't consider this gambling advice, but I've been doing pretty solidly and hopefully we can get some good picks in today.
Yeah, and I thank you for being here. I'll also say that, we're not professionals and we do pick 10 games against the spread. We usually pick all 25.
Yeah.
Not all of it is betting advice. Some of it is, most of it's not. But Mike, you ready to start us off?
I'm ready. I feel very strongly about this first game. We have number 24, Oregon State, going into play Washington. Washington, unranked here, but favored by 4.5. Just a couple things looking at this matchup. Oregon State is definitely on a little bit of a hot streak right now. They've won 3 in a row. In terms of power rankings, they're just behind Washington. Washington's offense is really good. They like to pass the ball. Their quarterback is insane through the air. Big thing, though, Oregon State's defense is better. And look at the forecast for this game. 17-mile-an-hour winds and rain.
Oof.
Will this limit them being able to pass the ball? I think that if they get into having to run the ball more, Washington's going to struggle more. Because of this, I'm going to take Oregon State. I think they're scrappy, and I'll take the points with them.
Wow. All right. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. I like Washington in this game just because they've had Oregon State's number the past 5 years. They've won 4 of the last 5 outright, and it's in Washington. I just think it being in Washington is going to give the Huskies a little bit more of an edge. And even though it's going to be windy and it possibly might be raining, the Huskies have the best passing attack in the country right now statistically, if you would believe it.
Damn. Well, I was originally going to side with Mike on this one, Oregon State. But I'm torn here, fellas. I don't know. I guess it's...
Are they going to be able to pass the ball in 70-mile-an-hour winds?
I don't know. So. I mean...
We'll see.
Not to mention, I usually like to look at, things like traps and where the money is and stuff like that. And in this game, I feel like is somewhat of a trap. Washington should not be favored by 4.5 points in this game, especially if with the Beavers being ranked in the top 25 nationally. I guess it's because they're on the road, but still, I mean, I like the spot for Washington State, and that 4.5 total isn't, scary enough for me to back away from it. So I like the Huskies in this game, minus 4.5.
Yeah, I think I'm going to actually ride with Washington as well. This feels exactly like, to me, Mike, a game that Vegas knows something. We've had a lot of these throughout the year. And 4.5 is weird to me in that it's not 3.5.
I know that's
Normally
weird.
we get 3.5 in this slot, so 4.5 is telling me something. I'm going to take the Huskies as well in this one, Washington.
Right. I'm totally content standing alone in this one. I trust the Beavers.
All right, well, we'll move on to Texas Tech going into TCU to take on the 7th-ranked TCU. What are they? The
Horned Frogs.
Oh, Horned Frogs. How could I forget that? But TCU favored by 10.5 in this one. Kind of a lot, if you ask me. TCU, they're undefeated, and they're fighting to win the Big 12 and make the playoff at this point. So, and you look at their schedule, and it seems very doable to me. So, but 10.5 is a lot to win against a scrappy Texas Tech team. And I got some friends from Lubbock. I've done the thing on the show before. I was doing it wrong, but I think I'm going to ride with the Red Raiders in this one. I'll take Texas Tech. So,
you want to follow up with that?
Oh, I mean, I like Texas Tech's points as well, honestly, just because in-state rivalries tend to be a little more close than you would think.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, TCU's the better team this year, but they're 8-0. This is a place that the Horned Frogs have never really been in before, and I think that the hype around them is kind of going to get to their head a little bit,
yes.
And they might get lackadaisical.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't think they lose this game to the Red Raiders, but it's 10.5 points is a lot of points, and I'd like the Red Raiders at 10.5.
Yeah, and I do want to jump in and say really quick, they might be having a look-ahead game as well because they go on the road to Texas next week. So watch out for that too.
I would say the exact opposite. I think that they are the epitome of a team that's focused. They know what they're doing. I mean, they've had so many great comeback wins. They had that win against Kansas State where they came from behind and covered. I trust this offense. I mean, they have a great quarterback. He has like 2 interceptions on the year.
Duggan.
Yeah.
Not Dugan, as
Yeah,
we
sorry about that
mispronounced.
last week. They're 14 in the power rankings. Texas Tech's 44. And Texas Tech is very inconsistent with me. I might be wrong here, but I'm almost positive TCU is 6-1 against the spread. And you're giving me the home environment. I'm going to take the Horned Frogs here. I'm going to take them to keep going. I trust this offense. And Texas Tech is inconsistent. And if you're going to give me that home field advantage as well, I trust the Horned Frogs to keep rolling.
Okay, interesting. We'll see who wins on that one. Who we got next?
Up next, we have Oklahoma State, number 18, going to play Kansas. Oklahoma State is favored by 3.5 here.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Oklahoma State coming off an absolutely brutal.
That might have been the
Loss.
worst. That might have been the worst loss in program history.
Yeah.
48-0 to Kansas State.
A ranked matchup, too.
Yeah.
And what do you even say about that?
I don't even know what you say in the locker room with that, but that's behind them. They're playing Kansas here. They're favored by 3.5. Kansas is not. This is a Kansas team that had their little Cinderella run at the beginning with their easy cupcake schedule. I knew it would end eventually, and I think that Oklahoma State is good. I think they just had a bad game.
Yeah.
So, I think this is a pretty good spot for them. They're not going to go down, without a fight, and they're still fighting to make the title game in the Big 12. So I'm going to take the Cowboys here to cover.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I also like the Cowboys in this game. I'll go right with you. They're 4-1 against the spread against Kansas in their last 5, and they're 5-0 outright. Kansas has not been good historically, and as you said, I was on the train earlier in the season as well. Kansas started the season 5-0, 6-0, and it was because of that easier schedule. I mean, they have their bulk of their Big 12 matchups coming up, and they could potentially end up being 6-6 when it's all said and done. So I do like Oklahoma State, especially after that blowout loss last week. I think they're going to get back on track this week. Give me Oklahoma State by a lot.
Yeah,
Right.
Gundy's not letting that happen again.
Well, the other reason behind Kansas's success early in the season was Jaden Daniels. And he's doubtful for this week.
I forgot about that.
I doubt that he'll play, but something to keep in mind, they haven't named a Week 10 starter yet, so I don't know. Maybe might be something Vegas is seeing there, but
Another question real quick. Is Spencer Sanders going to play?
Was he banged up? Yeah.
He left the game late, but they're saying he's in a good spot, so keep an eye out for that too.
I think he'll probably.
Regardless, I will take him.
But this one I'd love to go against you guys here, but it just seems too free to me. So I'm gonna take the Cowboys as well and get ready to be hurt again by them like last week.
That was brutal. Luckily, I had the Kansas State last week. That was nice.
Well, we'll move on to Syracuse at Pitt. Syracuse, number 22 in the country. Pitt is favored by 3.5 in this one. I know we're going to have a lot to say. You got the AP poll team not favored again in this one. So Syracuse here, coming off a brutal loss to Notre Dame, which I flipped my pick after the show last week to Notre Dame, but I'm very upset I did not take them on the show. 3.5, our least favorite line. Pitt playing really good football lately, but Syracuse lost 2 in a row, 3 in a row. They're looking for a bounce back game.
Is Pitt really playing really good football?
They're playing better football.
They just lost 2 games in a row.
They may not be playing better football, but who'd they lose to? They lost to Georgia Tech earlier.
They just lost to
UNC,
Louisville and UNC.
Yeah, UNC 17th, and Louisville just put it on.
Louisville just beat Wake.
Yeah, by a lot. 35 points in the third quarter. That was insane.
So maybe Louisville's legit. I don't know, but I'm gonna ride with Syracuse in this one. 3.5. I know it's at Pitt, but we've seen other teams go in there this season and cover. Tennessee, West Virginia did not, but they should have. But I'm gonna ride with the orange in this one. So I'll go Syracuse.
Yeah, I also am going to ride with Syracuse here. I understand the potential for a trap game and stuff, but Pitt has just not shown me enough to trust them. If you're giving me a Syracuse team that almost beat Clemson, you're giving me points. I mean, we just talked about it, the teams that have beat Pitt this season. I don't see why Syracuse couldn't do it, and you're giving me points. So give me the orange.
I'm going to go ahead and have to disagree with both of y'all in this game. I love the Panthers in this spot. That 3.5 line, It's weird like it always is, like you mentioned earlier. I like Pittsburgh in this one just because, 1, they're at home, 2, the line movement.
Yeah.
It opened up at 3.5 on my book, and now it's down to 2.5 with Syracuse getting all of the money. I mean, it should definitely be trending more towards the Syracuse direction than it is. I do like Pitt, and go ahead and lay me that 3.5.
All right. That's an interesting one. I knew it would be spicy, but now we get into arguably the best game of the week. I don't even know if it's arguable, but
Probably the best game of the 21st century in the regular season.
Wow.
Close to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's well, I don't even know what ranking to call them. Number 1 Tennessee playing number 1 Georgia.
Yeah, that's what we'll go with. I like that.
Georgia, despite Tennessee being ranked first in the playoff rankings, Georgia's favored by 8.5 here.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack here.
Oh yeah.
I honestly don't even know where to start. I would just say at face value, looking at this, Tennessee has the better offense. They just do. They're putting up crazy yards. They're scoring. They're leading
tested.
in both. Yeah, they have the best record. Georgia, I think, in terms of statistics, is right behind them. Offensively, they've put together some good wins. We talk about the 2 Georgia teams this season, which one you're going to get. But I would say Georgia's stock is trending up.
Yeah.
They took care of business against Auburn, Vandy. They took care of business against Florida. I mean, obviously these teams aren't in their prime, but taking care of business against a rivalry in a rivalry matchup is always good to see.
Yeah.
So I like their spot. I like Tennessee's spot as well. Defensively, Georgia's better. Tennessee has a great line. So many things. I would say money line, Georgia wins. But if you're giving me those points, I got to take Tennessee minus 8.5. Or sorry, plus 8.5.
Yeah. You want to go next?
Well, which way are you leaning? Because I'm leaning dogs, and if you're leaning Vols, I kind of want to go last.
So I will. I'll let you go last because I am leaning Vols, but I will predicate that with I was undefeated at picking the Georgia spread against the Georgia spread. So I did not predict Georgia correct once all year. Whatever game they played, I picked them. I picked against them. Last week was the first time that I picked the spread correctly.
So close.
I took Florida and they covered. But man, you look at this game and you talk about the 2 types of Georgia teams that show up, and I think that we're 100% going to get the right Georgia team.
Definitely, I agree.
Because if they don't win, we've been hearing they're out. They're not going to make the playoff, and they wouldn't make the SEC championship either, barring like unfortunate disaster in Tennessee against Vanderbilt or Missouri. But even the best Georgia team that I can envision going out on that field, the Georgia team you give me week 1 against Oregon. I don't know if they can cover 9. 9, they win by a touchdown, I take it. They win by, I don't know.
Same here. 6.5?
I'm going to go with the Vols very carefully on this one. I hope that Georgia will win this one but I see them winning by like a field goal or 5.
I'm in the same spot. I think that the Dogs will win this with that home environment, but is it enough?
Because
for
Tennessee
9?
could win this game. I fully believe that. And so if you're giving me 8.5 points and I have that feeling, I would take Tennessee in the points.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question.
All right.
When was the last time Tennessee was ranked number 1? And this is not even AP poll because the Dogs are currently still number 1 in the AP poll.
Right, that is
but
true.
when was the last time? 2001. So a little more recently than 98. But Tennessee is not used to this type of hype. Tennessee is not used to this type of media attention. I mean, Josh Heupel's in his, 3rd year there, 4th year maybe?
Yeah.
So I've been high on Hendon Hooker all year. He's a Heisman. I think he's a Heisman favorite in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah.
But here's a hot take. Tennessee has 1 good win all year.
Alabama.
And it's not even against Alabama. It's 40-13 against LSU in Death Valley.
Okay, that's fair.
Alabama and Nick Saban's team this year is just not the same team that they were. They almost lost to Texas A&M.
Hold on. They're still
not.
good.
They're not. They're not a top 5 team in the country right now.
A&M.
I know, but
They almost lost to Texas A&M. They almost lost to Texas with a hurt Quinn Ewers. They're not good on the road at all, which is why I like LSU in the game later.
Fair.
But Dogs, they are now, given that the fact, and I told this to one of my buddies the other day, the fact that they are now in the college football rankings, number 3.
Yeah,
You gave Kirby Smart
that's
that
in
type
the locker
of
room
firepower.
today.
yeah, they should. That was the bulletin board material I was telling Wes.
And
that's
that's-
up there all week.
And not to mention, I've been a Georgia reporter for about 4 years now. I've been to multiple games at Sanford Stadium. I was there in 2019 when they played the Fighting Irish, and that was the loudest game I've ever been to.
that is
it
fair.
will be even louder. Kirby Smart's been urging all the fans to get there early and loud. I think the environment's going to be too much. I think it's going to be a lot more like the Arkansas game last year when they started the game off with 3 false start penalties because it was so loud on the field. I like Georgia in the spot 80% of the money is on Tennessee plus 8.5 right now.
Yeah.
Give me the dogs. I just think Kirby's going to have them fired up. And even though they have some injuries like Nolan Smith and A.D. Mitchell might not be back yet, they're just very deep at most positions on the field.
That's
I like
fair.
the dogs at home. They're consistently good at home. And I think they show up this Saturday
Yeah.
and prove the doubters wrong. Tennessee will have that number 1 spot for about 5 days, in my opinion.
All right.
It will definitely be the best matchup in the past
100%.
20 years regular season.
100%.
I will say you bring up a very good point, though, about Tennessee on the road versus at home. And I think that game in Death Valley, if anything, would help them. Which LSU, not having the
It
best
does,
season.
but they only beat Florida by 5
That-
in the
that is
swamp.
fair.
And Florida hasn't looked good this year at all.
But that Florida team that played at Tennessee, I feel like was completely different than how they played the rest of the season.
Yeah,
I mean,
that team beat Utah.
That was
Yeah,
I was about to say
exactly.
that was the team that beat Utah as well. So.
Right, and Anthony Richardson, I think that's his best game of the season with like 4 passing
Yeah.
touchdowns. So, but I mean, LSU they've got or Tennessee has the experience at LSU, and I would like to think that Georgia is a rougher environment than LSU probably this year, and this game it 100% will
Definitely
be.
for this
Yeah.
game.
But playing in Death Valley is nothing to bat your eyes at. I think that Tennessee is at least road tested enough that they keep this game within 9. So I'd still stick with them.
I agree. I just can't deny the value there. I think that the dogs will win, and there's a lot of things going in their favor. But I just can't ignore that value.
Yeah.
I've just got when I look at it, I've got number 1 total offense going against number 1 total defense. And then on the other side, you've got number 3 total offense going against number 85
I
total
knew you.
defense. So
Yeah.
I just don't think Tennessee's defense will be able to keep the dogs off the field enough. Tennessee, they get the ball and they want to score as fastly as possible.
Fair.
Georgia, they'll get the ball. They're averaging like 538 yards a game
Yeah.
this year on just in general on offense. So
Yeah.
they're slow, they're methodical, they'll have the ball a lot more.
They will slow
And I
it
don't
down.
think Tennessee will have the chance to score as much as they'd like.
But hear me out. What if Tennessee gets ahead early,
Yeah.
and then Georgia's forced to not play that type of game because they got to catch up? And I'm
Even
not.
if they're
If they have to play catch up though, Tennessee's defense. I mean, I like Todd Monken at the
Yeah.
helm of the OC. Stetson Bennett,
Fair.
if he gets the chance to unload a little bit and extend his arm downfield, I think they can definitely get back into the game if they're
Yeah.
down.
Last thing I'll say, you brought up a good point about the Tennessee offense. They love to go tempo. They love to go fast. I would say, though, with Georgia being slow and methodical, I could totally see a game where Georgia gets out to a touchdown lead, something late in the game, and uses that grinding offense to just absolutely
true.
chew the clock
That
up.
would
Yeah.
screw the spread.
That's
I
fair.
could totally see that defensive-minded game plan that we have seen for a long time. Not as much recently. I could just see it getting down into the trenches at the end.
That's
I
a
don't
good point to end on. I like
Yeah,
that.
I agree.
A great
A lot
game.
to unpack there.
It'll-
Great
it'll be
matchup.
exciting for sure.
Either way. And we'll move on to another exciting one, the night game of the SEC. Alabama, number 6, going into Death Valley to take on the LSU Tigers. We got them at 15 in the AP poll. I know they were 10 in the playoff rankings, but we'll keep with the AP poll here. Alabama is favored by 13.5, which is, in my mind, a favorable line because it's 2 touchdowns as opposed to 14.5. But I went first last time, so Brennan, what do you want to say about this one?
I think, as I mentioned earlier, Alabama's not the same Alabama team that they usually are. They haven't been that good on the road this year. They're 1-2 against the spread when they're on the road. And let's talk about the other Jaden Daniels. He had probably a legacy game last week, had 5 total touchdowns in their good win. And I think he's playing his best football right now. Brian Kelly is definitely not a coach that you should overlook. He will scheme up for games like this.
Yeah.
And LSU's covered the spread 3 of the last 5 times that they've played Alabama. And just the fact that it's in Death Valley, top 5 venue across all of college football, I like the Tigers, and that's just a lot of points to me. Give me the Tigers plus 13.5.
Wow.
Man, this is the pick where coming into the show, I just didn't put something down yet because I could see it going both ways. Because, I mean, the counter to that is they got throttled by Tennessee there.
They did.
But,
Yeah,
yes,
they did.
I understand Tennessee is definitely better than Alabama right now. Statistically, though, if you look at the quarterbacks, what's his name? Jaden Daniels?
Yeah.
Yeah, and versus Bryce Young, they are, on paper, almost the same. If you look at everything they've done. The question, though, is, will the line be able to protect him? I don't know. I feel like Bama's pass rush, I don't know. There's just so much out there.
Will Anderson is a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want, at face value, looking at LSU, I feel like they control their destiny in the West. I want to take the points. Does Alabama, they also control their destiny. Will they have a bounce back game? All these things. I don't know. I will say though, I'm gonna err on the side of going with the Tide here, just because
It's never a bad side.
I feel like they only mess up a couple times. I understand this isn't the team that we've seen, the dominant team we've seen in the past, but LSU is a little too streaky to me. I don't know if I can side with them to get like another statement win.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna stick with the Tide here to take care of business on the road.
Yeah, when I first saw this pick, I immediately picked Alabama. But LSU, there's a lot of convincing factors, which some of y'all have mentioned. They're coming off bye this week. They're also riding that high of a victory against Ole Miss, 45-20. I got pulled up here. But then I think about, you mentioned Brian Kelly, and I think about Saban and Brian Kelly. I assume that they played each other, Alabama to Notre Dame. I don't know. I could be wrong about that, but
Definitely in the CFP.
Yeah.
In the playoffs, they
Yeah.
definitely
I
did.
just don't know if Brian Kelly's going to be able to out-scheme Saban in this one.
In his first game there, or his first time as their coach against them.
I also go back and forth on LSU in that, like, are they overrated or are they as good as people give them credit for? And you got the home field advantage. But Alabama is just like Georgia in this situation. They are basically on the like brink of their season. If they lose this game, they're not going to Atlanta, and they're definitely not. Well, they're probably not going to the playoff either. So I think that they're trying to prove everything that they can now. They just got ranked 6 or 7 in the playoff
6,
rankings.
yep.
So they have to win every game from here on out by as much as possible.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to err on the side of the Crimson Tide in this one and go with Alabama to win by 14.
I didn't even think about that. They are definitely the mirror of Georgia right now in the West. Like they have to win these games convincingly.
Yeah.
They have to pad that their stat sheet, their schedule, everything.
Yeah. That's an interesting one for sure.
Yeah. Another fun matchup is being overshadowed by the Georgia.
Yeah,
Tennessee.
this weekend literally will most likely decide who will play each other in the SEC championship game.
Yeah,
The winner of the Georgia Tennessee and the winner of LSU Alabama will most likely see each other in Atlanta come December.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, up next, we have Texas going to play Kansas State. Texas not ranked. Kansas State, what are they ranked?
They
Kansas
are
State is
13 in the AP.
Texas, though, going into Kansas State,
Hey, Texas.
favored by 2.5.
I will say this: Texas is now 24th after yesterday's.
Yesterday's
there you go.
the playoffs.
They squeaked
yes.
by again just because of that Texas bias, I might.
Yeah. Yeah, this is. I think it's very interesting. I mean, Kansas State has definitely had a great season. They got one loss.
Yeah. To Tulane, I believe.
Yeah. Yes.
They're 6
Two losses.
on the year.
2 losses.
They got two. Okay. I don't know. We've been talking about Wes and I have talked about Texas all year, thinking they're back. We don't know. FPI still has them at 6.
Yeah.
Even though they have 3 losses. If you're giving me Kansas State in the home environment with 2.5 points, I'm going to take Kansas State here, just because Texas is also inconsistent. You don't really know what you're going to get with them. Kansas State has proven to me with their schedule this year, their wins, that they are legit. They're a good team. And I think it's kind of disrespectful to have them as the underdog at home here, especially when they're ranked so much higher.
That is fair.
Yeah, it's definitely the definition of a trap game, but I'm going to side with you on this. I think Kansas State showed us enough last week, destroying Oklahoma State 48-0. And me personally, I've been 3-0 on Kansas State picks this year against the spread. I just love the spot right here, 2.5. I would be a little more scared, honestly, if it was 3.5. But the fact that it's 2.5, the fact that Vegas just usually likes Texas, you've been having to pay for Texas's covering all year.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
especially when they've been favored, they've been favored by 16, 17
Yes.
points. So Vegas has always been high on Texas. I don't look at the line as much of a trap as most people would in this game. Plus, Kansas State, Bill Snyder, he knows what to do with the Wildcats, and I like it. I think they cover the spread, and I think they win outright. So I'd take them as an underdog money line.
Yeah, I'm also going to take Kansas State in this one. I got them penciled in already. But, Texas, I believe, is coming off a bye week, which will help them. Maybe it might influence the spread a little bit. Or maybe I don't have them in my rankings from last week, and that's why. But, Kansas State, I don't know how you're going to pick against a team that just had that kind of a performance. I don't know.
And they're at home again?
Yeah.
And they're at home again.
It seems disrespectful to me, and I've been picking Texas because of their FPI ranking, they've been favored in some games against ranked teams, and it hasn't worked out for me.
No.
So I'm going to flip script here, and I'm going to go with Kansas State as well.
Texas is bound to cover now.
Yeah, exactly. since I said that, since I'm flipping what I've been doing all season, but we'll see about that one. Next one up, a very exciting game with huge playoff implications potentially. Clemson, number 5, going in to take on Notre Dame, the Irish. Clemson's only favored by 3.5 in this one. If they lose, they're probably out of the playoff picture. So Notre Dame, it's up to them. Maybe North Carolina later in the season to knock off the Tigers. But Clemson, I believe, is playing their best football right now. I mean, they had the close win against Wake in overtime. They had the close win against Syracuse. But I think they're exactly where they want to be. I mean, they're undefeated, and they're finally playing convincing football in my mind. DJ's figured it out, and 3.5 just seems a little too low to me. So I'm going to go with Clemson in this one. Notre Dame coming off the big win against Syracuse, but Syracuse and Clemson play very different types of football, and I think that DJ is going to be the difference in this one way or the other. He's either going to have a really bad game or a really good game. I think it comes down to him. But I'm going to trust him to get the job done against a very inconsistent Notre Dame team, in my opinion.
Yeah. I am also going to ride with Clemson here. Wes pretty much summed up everything. I mean, we talked about this last week as well, talking about Clemson. They are right where they want to be. A lot of people are sleeping on them, rightfully so for some reasons. But, talking about that Syracuse team, I think that Syracuse just wasn't ready for that spotlight. They're not as well coached. Not as much experience. So I'm going to ride with Clemson, to take care of business against Notre Dame here. They're just in the right spot, and I think that line's too low.
Yeah.
I love the Fighting Irish in South Bend.
Oh, man.
Give me Notre Dame just because 73% of the public is on Clemson. And I have been, one of the main people that have been saying all year that I think Clemson is vastly overrated.
Yeah.
Notre Dame's defense is sneakily underrated. They actually give up, they're giving up not as many points as you'd think, and they're number 1 in terms of points scored off of defense in college football this year. And as you said earlier, DJ is going to make it or break it for that Tiger team. And just the fact that it's away in South Bend, I like the Fighting Irish in this spot. I think the defense for them will come up big. It's going to be a low-scoring game, in my opinion, and I think it can come down to the wire. I mean, Clemson, in my opinion, hasn't looked very impressive at all. Yes, they beat Wake, but that was in an overtime game, and Wake just got smacked by Louisville.
Yeah.
They only beat NC State by 10 without their quarterback. I mean, NC State didn't have their quarterback in that game.
Yeah.
And then they should have lost. They honestly should have lost to Syracuse last week.
Fair.
Syracuse just couldn't find anything going in the second half. So I like Notre Dame in the spot. I like them at home. So I'll take them plus 3.5.
Well, I want to counter with one thing.
Yeah, I have one thing to say too.
But Notre Dame at home this season is 1-2, and they lost to Marshall and Stanford.
They're 1-3 against the spread at home.
Oh, okay. That's even worse.
It is even worse.
But
that means
feel like you know something.
The age-old quote is upon us. They're due.
They are due.
They're due. And Clemson is due for a loss. I mean, I don't think they're a playoff. I don't think they're a playoff team this year.
No, that's fair. I'll give you that.
I don't think they are either, but
I don't know.
I have written here as well. Clemson's coming off a bye.
Yeah, I don't know if Notre Dame is going to be the team to do it. Maybe UNC will.
UNC will, I think.
I can't trust an Irish team.
Notre Dame beat UNC earlier in the season, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just can't trust them, and to win for Clemson to win only by 3. Where Notre Dame lost to Stanford by 2, lost to Marshall by 5.
They almost lost to Cal.
It's a different Notre Dame team, I will give you that. But they're just too inconsistent in my mind to trust them in this one.
I think it'll be a fun matchup. Another one that's kind of being, not talked about as much.
I'm hoping Clemson wins on a field goal in overtime.
That's exactly what's going to happen now. We'll see.
All right. Up next, we have number 4 Michigan playing Rutgers. Michigan favored by 26.5 here. Right off the bat, I'm going to say I'm taking Rutgers here. I think that line is just too big. I mean, we saw Michigan get into, they handled business but did not cover against Michigan State. We picked that last week as well. And I think that this is just a Michigan team that, I don't know, they just haven't had a huge test yet. and that's just a big line on the road. The last 2 games they've played against Rutgers were decided by 6 points and 7 points. I mean, like last year. So
yeah,
I think that's just way too big. So give me what are they? The Scarlet Knights.
Yep.
Give me the Scarlet Knights
Yep.
here.
Yeah, I'm a Michigan fan through and through. Have been since I was about 7 years old. So I've seen plenty of Michigan football games, and I like the spot for Rutgers as well. Give the Scarlet Knights 26.5 points, just because. I'm not a big believer in J.J. McCarthy, Michigan starting quarterback. Michigan is 1-4 against the spread in the last 5 against Rutgers, and they're just they start games slow. If they don't come out and Blake Corum doesn't have 200 yards in the first 4 drives, then they're going to stall. They're going to let the other team kind of get back into it, and like you said, 26.5 points is just a lot. So I like the Scarlet Knights on on the opposite side.
Well, I agree completely with you about Michigan starting slow, but I think it matters how they finish too. So I was originally Rutgers, but I'm going to flip to Michigan right now because I just thought about they went down 7, or Michigan State scored 7 points and did not score in the second half. Michigan outscored them by 26 after they scored that 7. So I think they could easily do the same thing against Rutgers. I know it's a different environment on
They
the
kind of
road.
did the same thing against Penn State as well.
Yeah.
When they were, it was close at halftime, and then they pulled away. It was 41-17.
And the same thing against Indiana.
Yeah.
So I would say Michigan's a second half team. But 26.5 is a ton. This would not be a betting advice pick. Also, probably just influenced by you guys both taking them. But I'm going to go with the Wolverines in this one. They are also, I will bring up their playoff hopes because they just got kind of slighted by getting slotted behind Clemson. And some people's opinion, that early schedule kind of hurt them. But they're undefeated. Now they're on the same page as Alabama. They gotta just beat everybody by as much as they can to try and prove themselves. So I'll take the Wolverines very, very not confidently in this one.
Exercising extreme caution.
Yeah, exactly. And with that, we'll take us into our last matchup. Wake Forest, number 20, going to play NC State, number 21. Wake Forest is favored by 3.5 on the road here. So what do you guys got to say about this one?
Well, just off rip, on my book, it's 4.5, but
Okay.
I would hammer Wake Forest by if the spread was 3 touchdowns, I'd take Wake Forest. NC State has not, without their starting quarterback Devin Leary, they have not been good at all.
Fair.
Their offense has been stalling throughout the past 2 or 3 weeks. Wake Forest is coming off of an atrocious loss. I think they're going to definitely step things up and come back and get back on the right track. I think Sam Hartman's one of the better quarterbacks in the ACC right now. So I don't know why that they're not favored by more. I know it's a top 25 ranked matchup, 22 versus 21, but I honestly, if they hadn't gone 6-0 to start the year, NC State would not be ranked at all right now.
Yeah, I agree completely. I am also going to go with Wake Forest in this one. I know Mike is going to go with them as well because he loves Sam Hartman more than anything.
Awesome, dude.
But NC State very lackluster performance against Virginia Tech last week, and
they won by 1.
Virginia Tech is not the same type of football team as Wake Forest. I know Wake Forest just got beat by Louisville pretty bad last week, but Vegas also knew about that game because Louisville was favored in that one. So, or maybe it was just too close. But I'm going to go with Wake Forest in this one. Give me the Demon Deacons. I don't think that's the first time I've said that all season.
Yeah, I mean, Wes summed it up. I love Wake Forest so much. I've been riding with them all year. I think Sam Hartman is an elite quarterback.
I think he's been mentioned in every show that we've ever had.
I literally talk about them in every episode. I like their colors. I like their uniform. Literally everything about it.
You're big, kind of old face.
It's cool.
It's a little rough.
Might get changed in a couple of years, a little political correctness or something, but I don't know.
But yeah, I'll take them. I mean, y'all summed it up. I mean, without NC State, without Devin Leary, they scored like 9 points against Syracuse.
Yeah.
They just can't score, and I just don't really see any reason to doubt Wake Forest here, especially coming after like the soul-crushing loss against Louisville. They're going to get back on track. Like you said, I would literally take this at like 13.5. Easy. So yeah, give me the Demon Deacons.
Yeah. All right, well, there you have it. Some agreements, but a lot of disagreements as well, so it'll be interesting to see.
Like the slate.
It's a great, great weekend for college football this weekend. If you're a college football fan, you better be sitting on the couch on Saturday watching some games. But I'd like to thank Brendan for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I enjoy it. Enjoy it all the time.
We're excited about this. Stay tuned for the rest of our top 25 picks. But other than that, like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.
Go Classic City Locks.
We'll see y'all next week.